Although his cultivation was only at the third decay of heaven and man, he always believed that his strategies could make up for everything, and the facts indeed proved him right. Many times, he relied on his cunning nature, navigating between life and death, ultimately emerging as the victor. This time, he had carefully calculated the treasures the spirit-agile sage desired, but he was even more cautious. Having faked his death once wasn't enough for him, so he first used the jade slip to stop the mist restriction from operating, essentially opening the door to the mist. He then faked his death again. If anyone else was present, just like him, they wouldn't miss the chance to escape through the opening. Once someone appeared, the moment they entered the mist, this middle-aged scholar would strike, trapping them in the mist. Moreover, he was very confident in his fake death. In his youth, he had a strange encounter and learned a divine ability that could make him truly appear dead, with even his essence spirit collapsing, making it impossible for others to tell if he was really dead. Adding to this, he intentionally created a decayed appearance to make it even more convincing. At this moment, the middle-aged scholar felt completely at ease. With a wave of his right hand in front of the mist recoiled, revealing 9 jade slips. He tapped them several times, and 6 of the jade slips immediately shattered, turning to black ash and dissipating. The mist paused once again, as if it had frozen. Among the 9 jade slips, 6 were lethal items, with no connection to the restriction mechanism. A triumphant expression appeared on the scholar's face as he took a deep breath and stepped forward, entering the portal formed by the 3 remaining jade slips. All his focus was on the portal. He performed a few hand seals and calculated before tapping several times on the mist in front of him. Slowly, the mist that had solidified in front of him began to tear apart. Soon, the mist was lifted layer by layer, advancing deeper. The scholar's eyes brightened with excitement. He raised his hand and tapped again, but the moment his fingertip touched the air, his lips involuntarily curled into an eerie smile. In that instant, the scholar's expression drastically changed. He quickly retreated, wiping his face with his right hand, his eyes filled with horror. However, the eerie smile remained on his face, a stark contrast to the terror in his eyes. "It's impossible. Impossible." The scholar trembled, his fear reaching its peak, and the smile on his face only grew wider. Desperately, he raised both hands and pressed against his face as though trying to force the smile off. But no matter how he rubbed, the smile lingered and even intensified. Blood spilled from his mouth, but he seemed unaware, frantically rubbing his face in a futile attempt. How could this happen? The scholar screamed in agony, but the voice seemed to come from the smile itself. Gradually, he lost control of his expression and began to laugh uncontrollably. But his eyes were engulfed in fear, drowning him. "Don't laugh, don't laugh." Amidst the laughter, he staggered back a few steps, but after only a few strides, his body shook violently. He spat out a mouthful of blood, his eyes dimming, and finally, he lost all vitality. His body crashed to the ground. His face remained frozen in that eerie smile, as if gazing at the sky. His essence spirit inside his body mirrored that same smile. His death was complete. Life and death restrictions. On the silent ground, a flash of dark light appeared. Wang Lin stepped out of the restriction, his expression calm. The forbidden seals the middle-aged man had set up in the red mist were incomprehensible to outsiders. Even masters of restriction arts would find it difficult to discern, unless someone like Wang Lin, who was skilled in 3 of the 4 major restrictions, could spot the anomaly. The restrictions the middle-aged man had set were indeed aimed at being broken, but when combined, they eerily reversed the effect. Instead of breaking the red mist's restrictions, they triggered its power. In the end, he used the spirit-agile sage's strike of devotional power to fully activate the red mist restriction, causing it to erupt with multiple times its original force, intending to kill everyone in the area. To avoid suspicion, he risked his life and hid in the mist, emitting a wretched scream, making everyone believe he had died. He succeeded in killing most of the people in the area, forcing the rest out. With the expansion of the red mist, the cracks in the sky of this sealed land were shattered, preventing anyone from entering, leaving only him. This plan and this courage made him a truly remarkable figure. Wang Lin looked at the corpse with the eerie smile on its face. He raised his hand and slapped it. With a loud crash, the corpse disintegrated into ashes. In that case, even if you're still playing tricks, resurrection is no longer an option. He had long since seen through this man's ploy. Seizing the opportunity, he laid a restriction here, one that functioned like a teleportation marker. With his cultivation, leaving behind such a restriction wouldn't be easily detected. Though he had departed through the rift in the heavens, he instantly teleported back using that very restriction. The middle-aged scholar wasn't actually killed by him. It was the man's own failure to realize that within this crimson mist, beyond the ancient soul seal and time seal, there was also the life and death seal. As for the man's earlier display of feigned death, Wang Lin had seen through it easily. Such tricks held no power over him. Withdrawing his gaze from the corpse, Wang Lin took a step forward and arrived outside the restriction of the crimson mist. This seemingly simple restriction had already claimed many lives, a harsh reminder of the cruel nature of the cultivation world. Staring at the 3 jade slips that had halted the rotation of the mist, Wang Lin stepped inside. He stood where the scholar had previously been. His eyes flashed, the look of deduction flaring swiftly across his gaze. As I thought, it's the life and death seal. After a moment, Wang Lin raised his right hand and jabbed it forward. A faint popping sound echoed. Though the mist had ceased flowing, it now began to swirl again, forming a crimson mist vortex. Within the vortex, a faint black thread emerged, entwined vividly with the red. To unravel the life and death seal, the key was to find that single thread of life force within death. If it could be located and extracted, the seal could be broken. But to those unfamiliar with it, such an act was all but impossible. Wang Lin stared intently. After observing for a few moments, he formed a hand seal, and in the blink of an eye, a restriction emerged in his palm. Taking a deep breath, he carefully pressed the restriction into the crimson mist vortex. With a muffled thump, the vortex abruptly halted and absorbed Wang Lin's restriction. The black thread within grew clearer. Wang Lin's eyes gleamed. Without hesitation, he thrust his hand into the vortex, grabbed the black thread, and yanked it out fiercely. With a roar, the black thread was pulled free, twisting like a snake before dissipating in his hand. The crimson mist vortex collapsed instantly, vanishing in swathes like boiling water poured onto snow. In its place, a passage was revealed, long and winding, seemingly connecting to the thousand zhong, floating debris platform hidden within the mist. There's more. As the passage appeared, Wang Lin's eyes suddenly narrowed. But almost immediately, he returned to normal, his expression unreadable, though a flicker of elation passed through his gaze before being quickly suppressed. Without pause, his body surged forward, about to enter the passage. Stop! Just as he was about to rush in, a cold voice suddenly echoed through the realm. Well played. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. As the voice rang out, a blurry figure emerged from the misty sky. When it came into focus, it was none other than the spirit agile sage, whose foot had half-stepped into the 3rd step. Behind him, the 2000 zhong platform floated into view. At this moment, his face bore no joy or sorrow. Gone was the seemingly foolish demeanor from before. His eyes now shimmered with scorn. Wang Lin trembled and slowly turned around. His expression grew grim as he stared at the spirit agile sage, a bitter smile forming on his face, though panic gleamed in his eyes. Xun'er, greets the sage. Wang Lin cupped his fists respectfully, subtly shifting his foot backward a half-step. You take another step, and I'll kill you, the spirit agile sage said darkly. Your foresight is flawless, sage. Hidden intentions beneath calm words. This Xun'er is truly impressed. Wang Lin froze, his bitter smile deepening. He forcibly suppressed the panic in his eyes. I've known of Xiao Jing's ambitions all along. That petty child thought he could deceive me. How laughable. I may not be skilled in restrictions, but since you two are, and you've opened it for me, this saves me the trouble. The spirit agile sage sneered. Wang Lin's subtle movements only confirmed his suspicions. Come out. Wait to the side. To naturally birth a Tao spirit, one required a complete living soul that hadn't undergone soul search. In the sage's view, Wang Lin posed no threat and couldn't possibly escape his grasp. Thus, he decided to spare him temporarily for the upcoming soul sacrifice. Wang Lin's face turned pale, as if hesitating. After a moment, he sighed inwardly, lowered his head, and slowly stepped out of the mist. The moment he did, the spirit agile sage waved his right hand. A mighty force descended, transforming into a bubble-like prison of confinement, trapping Wang Lin within. Without even sparing Wang Lin a glance, the sage, confident in his methods, took a step forward and entered the mist. In a flash, he seemed ready to rush into the passage, but just as he crossed the threshold, his steps froze, and he whipped around to stare at Wang Lin, his gaze like lightning. Wang Lin's expression remained bitter and unchanged. Though the sudden gaze was fierce, nothing suspicious could be seen. "I've changed my mind. You go in first." Wang Lin was momentarily stunned. The joy in his eyes had yet to surface before being forcefully suppressed, though a flicker of emotion still crossed his face. Amid his hearty laughter, the spirit agile sage paid him no further attention, turned without hesitation, and stepped into the passageway. His figure moved like lightning, instantly reaching the midsection of the corridor. But at that moment, a piercing scream suddenly erupted. "There's still a restriction." Wang Lin's head jerked up, a flash of killing intent surging through his eyes. He stepped forward. He had already sensed something wrong within the passage, but even if the spirit agile sage had invited him in, Wang Lin had methods to counter any ambush, and now was no different. As he moved, deeper in the foggy corridor, the spirit agile sage coughed up blood, his face turning pale as he staggered backward in panic. Cold light gleamed in Wang Lin's eyes. The blood sword shot straight into the mist toward the spirit agile sage. A thunderous boom echoed. The spirit agile sage swung his hand, but he hadn't anticipated the blood sword's terrifying penetrative power. It pierced straight through his right arm. With a muffled grunt, his body halted involuntarily. Wang Lin did not hesitate for a moment. He knew his opponent was half a step into the third step and couldn't afford any delay. If he wanted to kill, he had to act decisively. As the blood sword was unleashed, Wang Lin's right eye flashed with thunder. Amid the roar of heaven and earth, the thunder diagram materialized. 9 strands of companion thunder coiled around it as it burst into the mist, crashing toward the staggered spirit agile sage. Thunder origin. The spirit agile sage, already wounded by the restriction and then the blood sword, was now blocked by the thunder diagram. Shock filled his eyes. The thunder diagram moved too fast, and they were too close. In the blink of an eye, it was upon him. Pale-faced, the spirit agile sage suddenly thrust out both arms. With a roar, he unleashed what little devotional power remained within him, which erupted into the form of a massive statue that stood defensively before him. A deafening explosion shook the heavens as the thunder diagram struck the statue. The entire structure, pitch black and with arms crossed before its chest, groaned under the barrage of thunderous might. Cracks spiderwebbed across its surface with sharp cracking sounds. In a sudden eruption, the statue shattered. The thunder diagram recoiled violently and returned to Wang Lin's right eye. The spirit agile sage spat blood, his face twisted in rage as he took a step forward, preparing to break free from the mist. From behind him came an enraged roar. It was the sealed entity within the fog, surging closer. As Wang Lin looked deeper into the corridor, he saw thick rolling crimson mist, and within it, a crimson beast resembling a Qilin came charging out, howling furiously. A 4th-grade fire Dao spirit? The spirit agile sage was shaken to his core. But there was no time to process this. Trapped in the mist, with Wang Lin ahead and that berserk 4th-grade Dao spirit behind, he had no opportunity to refine it. Especially one of the 4th grade. Even worse, the restriction within the fog was faintly awakening. If he couldn't escape in time and it fully activated, he'd be trapped, and that would be catastrophic. Moreover, back in the passage, he had fallen prey to Wang Lin's trap. A bizarre restriction had struck him and merged into his essence spirit, leaving him gravely injured. He had barely suppressed the restriction before, but the blood sword had shaken its grip. Then, the thunder origin had completely shattered his control, triggering a violent explosion of the restriction within his essence spirit. Such a life-threatening crisis, he hadn't faced anything like it in tens of thousands of years. He never imagined that someone so much younger could bring him to such a wretched state. But he was, after all, someone with one foot in the third step. Even though the situation was dire, he decisively abandoned the Dao spirit and charged at Wang Lin, eyes blazing with murderous intent, hatred boiling within him. "You think you can trap me here? Once I get out, I'll refine your soul and annihilate your spirit," he roared, his speed indescribable as he dashed toward the exit, nearly breaking free from the mist. But Wang Lin would never allow him to escape. In the instant after releasing the thunder diagram, his left eye flared as 9-colored true fire blazed to life, erupting outward and forming a nine-colored flame storm that surged toward the Spirit Agile Sage within the fog. Flame Origin 2. Who are you? The Spirit Agile Sage roared, hands forming seals as he spat out a breath of essence spirit chi. It transformed into a vast mountain and sea diagram. Within it was a boundless sea, and at the sea's edge, a faint mountain peak could be seen. As the flame storm collided with the diagram, the Spirit Agile Sage let out a low shout. Tidal wave. At his command, the sea within the diagram surged forth violently. Towering waves, hundreds of feet high, erupted into the mist, crashing directly toward the nine-colored flame storm. The impact thundered across the heavens. White vapor burst into the air in torrents as Wang Lin's flame storm was shattered, the nine-colored flames recoiling, but the raging sea was also instantly evaporated. Within the entire mountain and sea diagram, not a drop of seawater remained, only a single barren mountain. Wang Lin coughed up blood and staggered back several steps, yet his expression turned fierce, his eyes wild with madness. He must not be allowed to escape. He was going to kill. To kill a cultivator who had 1 foot into the third step great power. Mountain descend. As the Spirit Agile Sage advanced, he was already less than 3 zhang from emerging from the mist. He paid no heed to the furious 4-grade fire Dao spirit surging closer from behind. With a sweep of his right hand, the barren mountain within the mountain and sea diagram roared into view and charged straight toward Wang Lin. Get back. The Spirit Agile Sage roared, shaking heaven and earth. Flames burned in Wang Lin's left eye, while thunder flickered in his right. In the same instant, both powers erupted. Between his brows, fire and lightning merged and instantly transformed into a blazing bolt of lightning. With a deafening roar, it streaked forward like a meteor, heading straight for the incoming barren mountain. Power of heaven and earth thunder, all thunder origins condense for me. Power of heaven and earth flame, all flame origins gather for me. Thunder and fire as one. Break all techniques. The lightning comet of thunder and fire smashed into the barren mountain, igniting a violent collision. Thunderous booms echoed without end, as if tearing the world apart. The impact stirred the surrounding mist into a mighty shockwave. The barren mountain abruptly collapsed. Disbelief flashed in the Spirit Agile Sage's eyes. His body was forcibly halted by the backlash of that force. Wang Lin held his ground, enduring the recoil. His face twisted with ferocity as he raised his right hand and pointed at the Spirit Agile Sage, who had yet to fully exit the mist. Ethereal flame, burn. In the midst of his shock, the Spirit Agile Sage suddenly erupted in ethereal flame from within. It came too fast. He had no time to react. Before he could comprehend what was happening, the ethereal flame surged violently inside him. Screaming in agony, his body was engulfed in flame. Blood gushed out only to be instantly vaporized. Waves of searing pain racked his body as a strange restriction seal hidden within him exploded, worsening his injuries. Damn you, illusory flame cultivator, the Spirit Agile Sage howled, enduring the pain of being consumed by fire. Yet still, he staggered forward, now only 2 zhang from escaping the mist. He was utterly frenzied. As he stepped forward, he tore at his chest with both hands and roared, "Open the Linggong demon realm. With my own body as devotional power, I summoned the primordial demon god of the Linggong clan." In an instant, a massive rift split open just ahead, beyond the mist. Billowing demonic chi poured out endlessly. At the very moment the rift appeared, Wang Lin waved his right hand. An ancient breath leaf shot forth, aiming to seal it. But just then, the Spirit Agile Sage flung out a second ancient breath leaf. The two collided and sealed each other off, tumbling away in an explosion of force. With the ceiling blocked, the gaping rift unleashed a towering black statue. It thundered into existence, identical in form to the one the Spirit Agile Sage had previously manifested, yet now far more solid. Arms folded across its chest, it stood tall between heaven and earth. Then suddenly its arms shifted. The moment it unfurled them, a destructive force exploded outward, sweeping across the world, aimed directly at Wang Lin. This power radiated such immense danger that even Wang Lin's ancient god physique felt as though it might be torn apart. In this life or death moment, he hesitated not. His right arm shot up, and the ancient god bracer manifested instantly. Ancient protection. In a flash, the phantom of a towering ancient god appeared before Wang Lin. Massive and scarred, the figure turned its back to shield Wang Lin from the full assault. With both arms, it embraced Wang Lin protectively. Boom. The destructive force slammed into the ancient god's back. Unshaken, the ancient god withstood the earth-shattering might. Then, in a single, thunderous motion, it turned its massive body. Clenching its right fist, like a meteor, it spun around and hurled a colossal punch. Even seeing this spectacle a second time, the awe and warmth this ancient god radiated still struck Wang Lin to his core. The punch landed directly on the massive statue. With a thunderous crack, the statue shattered into countless pieces, crumbling on the spot. The backlash surged outward. Shards of the destroyed statue and remnants of the ancient god's strike all slammed into the spirit agile sage, who had just emerged from the mist. The explosion rang out as the spirit agile sage spat out multiple mouthfuls of blood, his body forcibly knocked back into the mist. The ancient god's phantom faded. Wang Lin, face twisted in a snarl, realized his enemy was heavily wounded. Without delay, he raised his left hand, formed a seal, and waved it toward the mist. Within it, the 3 jade slips left behind by the scholarly middle-aged man suddenly glowed with a dark light. Wang Lin grabbed at them across the void and yanked them out with force. The jade slip flickered and the red mist that had stopped moving suddenly regained its flow, rapidly healing the gap that had appeared earlier in a frenzy of writhing motion. No! The spirit agile sage roared in anger, his body flashing as he attempted to break free once more. Behind him, the 4th grade Tao spirit was closing in. A cold light gleamed in Wang Lin's eyes as he raised his right hand. From a distance, he pointed at the spirit agile sage, whose body was half devoured by the mist, but still desperately trying to break out. Freeze. Wang Lin had mastered the body immobilization art for over 1,000 years. Every time he used it, it brought miraculous results. At this moment, as the spirit agile sage was already heavily injured, almost at death's door, his body suddenly trembled. The red mist roared violently, engulfing the last remaining gap and swallowing the spirit agile sage completely. With minimal cost, Wang Lin achieved the greatest victory. This was his principle in battle. If he had taken the jade slip earlier, the spirit agile sage's injuries wouldn't have reached this point, and there might have been a chance for escape. The same principle applied to the body immobilization art. Thus, Wang Lin fought with determination, first pushing his opponent to the brink of death, and then, at the most critical moment, taking the jade slip and using the body immobilization art to deliver a lethal blow. This battle was swift and decisive. Wang Lin formed hand seals, and in an instant, countless restrictions fell upon the red mist. Inside, explosive sounds echoed, roars and weak, enraged howls continued. After a long while, the noise gradually subsided. I'm not afraid of restrictions, but the fact that the Tao spirit can be sealed like this shows it is an incredibly formidable force. Let it clash with the heavily injured spirit agile sage. That will be most beneficial for me. Wang Lin's gaze flickered. Everything had been calculated. Had the spirit agile sage not been wounded, the Tao spirit might not have been its match. In combat, injuries were inevitable. But right now, everything was proceeding exactly as Wang Lin had planned. His right eye crackled with thunder as the thunder diagram manifested, floating above the 1,000-foot mist. Thunder roared, and bolts of lightning struck continuously, weaving into a web. His left eye shimmered with flame, surging out to encircle the mist in a sea of fire. The flames merged with the thunder, forming a tight blockade. Having done all this, Wang Lin pressed his right hand to his forehead. The ancient god star mark spun, and the celestial emperor furnace surged out, enveloping the mist. Wang Lin performed a series of hand seals, leaving a mark. The celestial emperor furnace began to refine. Staring at the mist, Wang Lin's eyes flashed. The celestial emperor furnace was a divine artifact of the ancient god royal family. Apart from its strong defensive capabilities, its refining power was even more significant. This furnace didn't refine pills or treasures. It refined ancient slaves, ancient god slaves. Once this was done, Wang Lin did not continue watching the mist but instead stepped toward the 2 pieces of ancient breath leaves sealed together at a distance. With a sweep of his right hand, the 2 leaves flew over. I didn't expect the spirit agile sage to have one of these ancient breath leaves as well. I wonder where he got it. Wang Lin separated the 2 leaves, taking the one belonging to the spirit agile sage. His divine sense surged out, wrapping around the leaf. The power of the ancient god flowed through, scattering the spirit agile sage's divine sense. After all, this item belonged to the Ancient One clan, and outsiders could never truly control it. Leaving his ancient god aura on the leaf, Wang Lin carefully stored both leaves. This treasure was extremely useful to him. In some situations, it could even rival the body immobilization art. His gaze swept across the 2,000-foot crimson-colored burial platforms suspended in midair. His body swayed and he landed on one of them. Earlier, the spirit agile sage mentioned the second-grade burial platform, so this must be it. But what exactly is its purpose? Wang Lin furrowed his brows, crouching down to examine it carefully. After a moment, his eyes narrowed as he began to discern something. The surface of the burial platform, beneath the dark red, blood-like hue, was covered in many symbols. Wang Lin immediately recognized them. These symbols were the number markers that appeared on the foreheads of cultivators who entered this place. He clearly remembered that during the platform scramble, whenever a cultivator died, even if their body collapsed, the number markers on their foreheads did not dissipate. Instead, they transformed into symbols and floated in the air. At the time, he didn't understand this phenomenon. But now, seeing this platform, he understood everything. The number-marked symbols, when merged into the platform, allow it to level up. Wang Lin muttered. His gaze swept down, and he counted the symbols on the platform. There were 589 in total. Over a dozen cultivators had already perished in the sealing ground. Despite their deaths, the number markers on their foreheads had turned into faint symbols floating in the air. Even the red mist storm hadn't destroyed them, and the spirit agile sage, along with the middle-aged scholar, had been too rushed to collect them. A sharp light flashed in Wang Lin's eyes. With a sweep of his wide sleeve, his right hand sent more than a dozen floating runes flying toward him. After carefully examining them, Wang Lin flicked his hand again, casting the runes onto the platform below. One by one, the runes landed and quickly merged with the platform. But as the 11th rune fused in, the entire platform suddenly trembled, shuddering violently. In that instant, the surrounding heaven and earth energy surged, drawing in countless specks of dust from all directions. These specks poured into the platform. Under Wang Lin's watchful gaze, the platform visibly expanded. At the same time, even more dust seemed to tear through the void, flooding in from a boundless place and fusing with the platform. Gradually, the platform grew larger, 2,300 zhang. 500. 800, until it reached 3,000 zhang and abruptly stopped. Its color shifted from dark red to a deep violet. Suspended midair, it now resembled a floating continent, a truly astonishing sight. Wang Lin's expression changed. He lowered his head sharply, staring intently at the platform. What shocked him wasn't its sudden expansion, but that at the moment it reached 3,000 zhang, a divine consciousness-like aura burst from within the stone platform. It surged up through his feet and entered his body, transforming into a series of vivid scenes. These scenes rapidly merged with Wang Lin's memory, giving him no chance to resist. They became part of him instantly. When he closed his eyes, a vast map unfolded before him. Most of the map was shrouded in black mist, except for 3 visible areas. These 3 sections, when viewed together, covered nearly 30% of the entire map. Examining it closely, Wang Lin located his current position. This place was marked as the Fire Path Sealed Land. There were 3 such sealed lands across the 3 linked regions on the map. More astonishingly, Wang Lin faintly saw a path on the map, one that led deep into the ancient burial ground. Shaken, he remained motionless for a long time before finally opening his eyes. The moment he did, he froze. The sealing ground before him now appeared riddled with countless fine cracks, like wounds that would suddenly open and close, eerie and unsettling. His eyes narrowed as he took a step forward, leaving the burial platform. Instantly, the cracks vanished completely, wiped from his vision. But the moment he returned to the platform, they reappeared. "This platform is strange," Wang Lin murmured. He remained silent for a while, unable to find the cause. Yet instinctively, he sensed that within this ancient burial ground, the platform might be the key to everything. "I've likely reached the 3rd step. If I can go even higher, perhaps the entire map could be revealed. And maybe this platform will manifest other divine abilities." Wang Lin's eyes deepened in thought. After a moment, his gaze dropped to the celestial emperor furnace below. Inside, thunder and flame clashed. The aura of an ancient god swirled, continuously refining something. The mist within had already shrunk from 1,000 zhang to just over 800 and continued to compress rapidly. With a cold sneer, Wang Lin stepped forward and sat cross-legged outside the furnace. Forming hand seals, he launched one restriction seal after another, penetrating the Celestial Emperor furnace and imprinting directly onto the mist. Aside from the ancient soul seal, Wang Lin had mastered all other restriction techniques. Now, under his manipulation, the restrictions steadily weakened and dissipated layer by layer. After half an hour, only 100 zhang of mist remained. This finally revealed what lay beneath the 1,000 zhang platform borne by an ancient god. With a wave of his right hand, Wang Lin summoned the 3 jade slips he had obtained from the scholarly middle-aged man. They passed through the furnace and stamped onto the 100 zhang mist. The mist froze, its movement ceasing. Wang Lin's eyes flashed. He suddenly stood and placed both hands on the Celestial Emperor furnace. The power of the ancient god surged wildly. From within the furnace came piercing wails as countless souls coalesced into 2 massive hands formed entirely of soul essence. These hands plunged into the mist and tore outward violently. With a loud bang, the mist was forcefully ripped apart, revealing what was hidden inside. Before Wang Lin could get a clear look, a thunderous roar erupted from within. A 4th-grade fire Dao spirit burst forth, letting out a furious bellow. Sensing Wang Lin's presence, it charged straight for him outside the furnace. With a deafening impact, the Dao spirit, resembling a qilin, slammed into the furnace and was knocked back violently. Its body was covered in wounds, its aura dim and weakened. Clearly, it had endured a brutal battle against the spirit agile sage inside the mist. Yet the fierce light in its eyes hadn't diminished in the slightest. Even as it staggered back, it continued to snarl, low and threatening. Behind him lay a corpse, bloody and mangled. It was none other than the spirit agile sage. The Celestial Emperor furnace belonged to Wang Lin, and with the spirit agile sage trapped within it, there was nowhere to hide. Wang Lin instantly saw through the ruse. The man was not truly dead. His essence spirit had simply withdrawn into his body, feigning death while frantically healing. Raising his right hand, Wang Lin formed a seal and pointed at the Celestial Emperor furnace. At once, the furnace filled with murky energy. The Dao spirit that had been within was nowhere to be seen. Only the spirit agile sage remained, lying inside. No need to play dead. I never intended to kill you. Compared to a dead spirit agile, I much prefer a 3rd-step ancient slave, Wang Lin said coldly. Between his brows, 6 ancient god star marks spun as ancient god power surged wildly into the furnace, beginning a brutal slave forging process. To force me into such a wretched state, you must be no nameless figure. Who are you, truly? Came a raspy voice from the spirit agile sage, brimming with boundless hatred. Wang Lin's expression remained calm. He gave no reply, only pressed more ancient god power into the furnace. The refining power inside began to spin violently, filling with wave upon wave of shrill cries. A soul storm began to form, swirling around the meditating spirit agile sage, coalescing into the towering figure of an ancient god. The god's form was terrifying, entirely crimson, wielding a massive axe. As soon as it appeared, it raised the axe high and brought it crashing down toward the spirit agile sage. Celestial Emperor furnace, 10 axes to forge the slave. Wang Lin's eyes gleamed. From his lips flowed in ancient tongue, ancient god incantations, manifesting into ethereal seals that stamped onto the surface of the furnace. With a thunderous boom, the crimson ancient god brought its axe crashing down, piercing the storm and aiming straight for the spirit agile sage's skull. I'd like to see how you plan to refine me. The spirit agile sage's expression shifted. His eyes snapped open, glaring fiercely at the descending axe. With a low growl, he quickly formed hand seals. Instantly, behind him appeared the massive statue he had once summoned before, the demon god. Boom! The axe struck, but collided with the eerie glow emanating from the statue. With a deafening crash, the axe vanished, and the statue trembled, then shattered. The spirit agile sage coughed up blood, but the blood instantly reformed the statue, shielding him once again. Wang Lin's face paled slightly, a cold gleam flashing in his eyes. Without hesitation, he lifted his right hand and pointed forward. Inside the Celestial Emperor furnace, the Crimson Ancient God once again manifested an axe and unleashed a second strike. Before it landed, behind the first Ancient God, a second began to take shape, its form coalesced from souls within the storm. It too held an axe, and as soon as it emerged, it swung downward with fierce force. But it didn't stop there. Behind them, souls condensed rapidly, forming a third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and finally, the eighth Ancient God, each erupting into existence with a deafening roar. 8 ancient gods. 8 heaven-shaking axes. In an instant, the attacks merged into one unified onslaught, a flurry of phantasmal strikes all surging toward the spirit agile sage. Be forged, Wang Lin roared. eyes full of killing intent. Boom, boom, boom. The furnace thundered with deafening echoes. The statue shielding the spirit agile sage was struck by the first axe, trembling but holding firm. The second axe crashed down. Then the third, the fourth, until the eighth descended. The successive blows merged into a single catastrophic impact. The statue finally shattered with a resounding explosion. The remnants of the axe strikes pierced through the broken barrier and drove straight toward the spirit agile sage. With unimaginable speed, the axe cleaved into his skull, passing through without resistance and slamming into the floor. The entire celestial emperor furnace shook violently. The spirit agile sage spewed blood, his eyes briefly filled with disorientation. That fleeting moment of confusion was all Wang Lin had been waiting for. As it appeared, a strange light flashed in his eyes. Forming seals with both hands, he struck his brow and murmured, "Daoist art." Dream Dao. Inside the celestial emperor furnace, the spirit agile sage suddenly trembled, his eyes filled with greater confusion. Faintly, it seemed as if his life's memories were rapidly flashing before him. "You have good talent. I can guide you into the Lingdong clan's cultivation. If you succeed, it will be your destiny. Remember my name. I am Wang Lin." A blurry figure, a young man, looked at the boy kneeling before him and slowly spoke. "I will never forget it, senior. I will remember it for life." The boy's face showed determination, his eyes filled with deep gratitude. "Although you are not of the Lingdong clan, your loyalty to our clan and your exceptional talent are undeniable. Therefore, I shall give you my clan's mark. May you do well with it." An old man in black, his face pale, with his chest a mess of blood and flesh, obviously on the brink of death with his soul shattering from grave wounds, spoke in his last moments. Before him knelt a middle-aged man, who was none other than the Lingdong. "My real name is not as you know it, but—" "Wang Lin." "Wang Lin," the man froze. The name Wang Lin was not unfamiliar to him. In the starry sky of the ancient stars, an old man was fleeing rapidly, his face pale, blood pouring from his body. Three figures chased him closely. Could it be that the Lingdong clan is doomed to perish here today? The old man's eyes revealed despair. The three pursuers were now nearly upon him, their divine abilities transforming into three ferocious dragons that roared and devoured. Just as they were about to close in, the old man, with a bitter smile, had already resolved to self-destruct to take them down. At this moment, a gentle light appeared in the starry sky, and a phantom-like large hand materialized, sweeping towards the three pursuers. They immediately spat blood and recoiled in horror. "The one who saved you is Wang Lin." The old man survived the disaster, but as soon as he heard the name, a deep sense of fear and confusion appeared on his face. Again, Wang Lin. Countless years passed. Inside the Lingdong clan, an old man, his body decaying, exuded a foul stench, a sign that he was on the verge of death. Fifth decay of heaven and man. Fifth decay. Could it be that my cultivation journey in the Lingdong clan is truly coming to an end here? The old man smiled bitterly, blood oozing from the corner of his mouth, before his eyes closed for the final time. But just as his eyes closed, it was as if he entered a strange realm, one that was blurry, where everything was indistinct. Yet, ahead of him, there was a figure, with its back to him, clearly visible. "For the sake of my servant, I shall make you attain the Tao." A cold voice slowly drifted over. "Who are you?" The old man's eyes narrowed. "Wang Lin." The figure turned around, its gaze sharp like a blade, and looked at the old man. It was none other than Wang Lin. The old man's expression changed dramatically. With his composure, he wouldn't have been so shaken, but the name Wang Lin had accompanied him throughout his life, since childhood, when he entered the Lingdong clan, to his mentor bestowing the clan's mark upon him, revealing his real name, Wang Lin. Even in the numerous life and death crises, there was always someone named Wang Lin who saved him. This had become a dreamlike experience in his life. "If you agree, from now on, you will no longer be Lingdong. You shall be named Ancient Servant." The moment these words were spoken, the blurry realm collapsed with a roar, turning into countless shards that tore apart all of the Lingdong's memories. As a result, he violently trembled inside the celestial emperor furnace, awakening from his trance. However, despite being awake, confusion still lingered. The instant he regained his senses, the 8 ancient god figures that had manifested inside the celestial emperor furnace overlapped and suddenly merged into one, becoming the 9th ancient god. The ancient god raised an axe and swung it down towards the Lingdong below, delivering the 10th strike. The axe's roar shook the heavens, crashing down with thunderous force, rapidly closing in on the Lingdong's body, who, in his daze, looked up. His eyes flickered with desperate resistance, instinctively attempting to fight back. But at that moment, a cold voice echoed within the celestial emperor furnace. Are you Lingdong or ancient servant? The spirit agile sage's body shook violently, and his eyes filled with endless terror. He howled to the heavens. Who are you? I am Wang Lin. Wang Lin, outside the celestial emperor furnace, spoke slowly, his expression weary. His voice echoed into the furnace, turning into countless thunderclaps that rumbled in the sage's mind, freezing him in place, with the name Wang Lin ringing in his ears. In a flash, the 10th axe descended on the Lingdong's forehead, leaving a circular mark on his brow. His eyes lost all light, and he collapsed backward, sucked into a soul storm, disappearing without a trace. Outside the celestial emperor furnace, Wang Lin's fatigue was even more evident, but there was a hint of joy in his eyes. He took a deep breath and, with the aid of the furnace, successfully disrupted the Lingdong's mind using his dream Dao, leaving his mark on him. However, it would still take some time for the mark to mature and be nurtured, and with the addition of various restrictions and defenses, only then could the Lingdong truly be his puppet. Unfortunately, there are still many drawbacks. But time is limited, and this is all I can do for now. Wang Lin's gaze flickered, and with a swift flick of his sleeve, the celestial emperor furnace seemed to change the very heavens, growing murky. However, this murkiness quickly dissipated, revealing a Dao spirit sealed by Wang Lin in a separate world. This Dao spirit, resembling a qilin, continued to growl. Flames enveloped its body, and its injuries were healing at an incredibly terrifying speed, recovering rapidly. At this rate, it wouldn't take long for it to fully heal. What exactly a Dao spirit was, Wang Lin didn't know. In fact, this was the first time he had ever seen something like this in his life. Now that he noticed how shockingly fast its healing speed was, his eyes involuntarily narrowed. I must see what this Dao spirit truly is. Wang Lin formed hand seals and waved his hands forward. With a thunderous boom, a massive stone door suddenly appeared in front of the Dao spirit within the celestial emperor furnace. This stone door was the gate of ascension he had comprehended in the Wind Immortal realm, the ancient and everlasting gate of Flowing Moon. Flowing Moon. Reverse the flow of time. The flowing moon unfurled, causing time to reverse. Wang Lin's gaze pierced through the massive stone door, clearly seeing the Dao spirit within, as layers of mysterious veils were stripped away by the passage of time. Moments later, Wang Lin's face suddenly changed dramatically. He stood up abruptly, instinctively taking several steps back. This is impossible,